So hello and welcome to our first kind of a trial class today, I think more than anything else, our first online class rather than face-to-face class. I wish I could say it's lovely to see you all, but I can imagine you all and where you all like to go in the room in the studio, and I can almost close my eyes and see each of you there, regardless of which class it is that you normally come to. So I suppose in response to what's going on out there in the world at the moment and trying to keep a little bit of regularity and routine, and also to hopefully offer you some of the grounding benefits of the yoga and meditation practice that we usually enjoy together, here we are. So rather than recording the entire suite of classes for the week and posting them, what I thought I'd do initially is do a small class, which I think is something that would be suitable for everybody. I think that each of you, regardless of the classes that you normally attend, whether that be restorative or a class that's a bit stronger using the bands, or somewhere in between with the hatha or even the chair yoga, the joint release series that I do frequently in the mindfulness and the restorative classes, and occasionally take you through in some of the others. It's just so grounding and so nourishing and so calming and cleansing for the body, for the mind. And I suppose it takes us into just a quieter space within, that I thought that might be a nice place to start, to record something and then get a little bit of feedback. See how it sounds, see how the images. I'm trying to work from home rather than the studio, even though I can still get out the door to the studio, because you're at home. And as much as possible, I want to try and replicate the experience that you'll be having at home. So I'm in my spare bedroom, there's not a whole lot of space. I haven't brought any of the yoga props with me because most of you won't have them. So I will be making do with what I have at home: blankets, pillows, tins of beans as yoga blocks maybe as we go along, but just to make it as real life and as realistic as possible, because we're all together, so there's no point in me being in a lovely studio with all of the lovely props and teasing you while you're trying to find a quiet corner in your own house. So just with this practice as well, it's pretty much suitable for everybody, all ages. Kids probably maybe from even 6 or 7 up might be happy to sit down and do it with you. It's suitable for maybe any older people who you might be looking after, or who might have a bit of discomfort with joints, can be quite helpful for them. And I would say even if you're pregnant, and we don't always recommend too much lying practice for pregnancy, you should be okay with this, so long as you give yourself a little bit of elevation back the body if you need to. And you can do this from a chair as well. So I'm doing it on the floor, but you can do most of this, in fact practically all of it, on a chair if you want to have more of a chair yoga experience. And what I would suggest is, if you're doing that, pop yourself up on a fairly solid chair, so something like a kitchen chair, maybe make it a bit softer with a blanket at your back. And to start off with, you could have another chair in front of you so that you can have your legs, you can have your legs up, and effectively you'll have your ankles in line with your hips. So I don't have a chair to demonstrate that, but I might do a chair yoga version of this as we go through the week. So anyway, you're all very welcome. So what you need to just get yourself set up, and you can press pause on this at any time if you want to go away and get yourself some bits and pieces. Get your mat out if you have one, and if you don't have a yoga mat, you just really want something that's going to provide a little bit of cushioning and a little bit of warmth between you and the floor. So it might be that you get your duvet down off the bed, it might be that you spread out a blanket or a couple of blankets, get onto a rug and maybe cover it with a towel or something, just something that gives you a little bit of support. I'm sitting, I have a sofa behind me, and if I needed back support, I'd sit closer to it. I'm generally happy to sit in a meditation posture for a while, so I don't need that. But you can do this up against a wall, up against a sofa, whatever is going to be comfortable for you, up against your bed, wherever you have space at home. All you really need is either your mat or something to lie on, a few blankets for later on when we come to lying down. Make sure the room that you're in is warm enough so that you're not going to be uncomfortable because of any coolness. And I have some cushions as well that I'm sitting on. So what I've done is I've just got a couple of cushions and a pillow from the bed, and I've stacked them up in lieu of a bolster. I'm coming into an easy cross-legged meditation posture, which you'll all know. Actually, restorative people might not so much because you tend to start your classes lying down. We're going to start sitting and make our way to the floor for this particular sequence this evening. But to come into easy cross-legged, you literally just cross one leg in front of the other and let the knees come out to the side. And I generally will give myself a little bit of propping, a little bit of padding with a block if I had them, or a couple of blankets rolled up is quite nice. Towels rolled up are quite nice actually. They're quite a nice firm support if you're looking for something as an alternative to blankets, just to support the legs or to support the body in any way. You could also just sit up against a wall. I would say have something under your bum just so that you're off the floor and nice and comfortable. You could sit up against a wall just with your legs out in front of you. Or you could sit up against a wall with the knees bent and legs either side. What we're really looking for to start out with is a nice long and straight spine. So find a comfortable sitting position. Pause me whenever you need to. And just take a few moments to settle yourself. Take a few moments to check in. Make sure that you're comfortable. Press pause for as long as you need to sort yourself out, to get yourself into a nice, comfortable seated posture to start out with. And have a breath. So as we go through the practice, you can do this with your eyes open or closed. Once you get into the rhythm and the flow of it, if you're comfortable to close your eyes, that can be a little bit more grounding because you bring your focus a little bit more internally. But for now, whatever way you're sitting, just see that you have some nice length in your spine so that you're not collapsing the belly in towards the belly in towards the navel, or your chest in towards your navel. So we're down with the sit bones. Lengthen up a little through the spine. And you can just rest your hands onto your thighs, whatever way your legs may be resting. It can be nice to bring the hands into mudra, so thumb and index finger connecting on either hand. And we're just going to take a moment to settle the body. And I really do encourage you to make any little wiggles, any little adjustments as you go through so that you remain comfortable. So settling the body, and just allow your awareness to become a little more inwardly focused, tuning in. So closing the eyes can really help with that. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, just have your gaze long and low, nice and soft, so that you're not staring at anything, you're not looking around the room, but really what you're doing is just allowing your focus to narrow. We call it a drishti in yoga. So that you have a gaze, maybe on a point on the floor or the wall, or maybe place a candle in front of you. Not too close. Just allowing the body to settle into its new position, noticing any differences from how you might have been before you came into your yoga space, your meditation space. And let's just tune into how we're feeling right now. Let's just take a moment to acknowledge what's going on for us in the outside world, what's going on in the day-to-day. There's an awful lot going on right now that we have no control over. We have control over ourselves, we have control over how we respond to what's going on, but we're really responding and reacting to unfolding events rather than choosing them. And they're scary. The world is a very different place to the one we knew a week or two ago, or even a few days ago. And I think rather than trying to just push all that out the door and pretend it's not happening, let's just acknowledge it for now, and acknowledging the toll that might be taking on us mentally, physically, emotionally. Perhaps acknowledge it as a distraction as well. But there was life before COVID-19, and there was life going on despite it and in spite of it, and there'll be life going on which we can look forward to afterwards as well. So what else do you have on a personal level that might be draining you at the moment, that might be placing demands on you, that might be, tiring, or just a distraction that's perhaps not so nourishing, not so helpful and supportive? Tune in, check in. What do you have going on for you? What do you need to be mindful of? What do you need to look after yourself with? So whether it's worries on a mental level, there'll be lots of those at the moment. Worries on an emotional level about yourself and those you care about, things going on in your life around you. Perhaps on a physical level, you might be feeling some strain or some discomfort. Just tune in and send a little mindful compassion and loving kindness to the challenging experience that we're all sharing right now. And that might be very universal. We might be sharing lots of common worries, cares, concerns, but at some level it'll be deeply personal as well. It'll be deeply personal to each one of us individually. So we can perhaps be a little bit supported, knowing that everybody is facing the same challenges at the moment, and yet acknowledge whatever our own experience is in that. That will change from moment to moment. And let's just see if we can invite all of these things that are going on, all of this external frenzy and busyness and chaos and worry and loss and all of the things that are unfolding, to join us in the space for a little rest, for a little ease, for just a little while where we can turn down the volume, we can allow whatever these challenges and experiences are to move to the background of our awareness, and we can slow right down. We can withdraw our attention, our awareness, even just for the next little while, away from anything external, anything that might be worrying you, anything that you might be delighted about or very joyful about. And we can just make everything a little bit simpler. We can literally, as though we had a remote control in our hand and we were just turning down the music in the background or turning down the noise in the background. And let's start to listen a little bit more to some of the sounds that come from within. And rather than the sounds of our thoughts, let's just listen to the sound of the breath as it makes its way into the body and as it makes its way out again. And when we really tune in, the breath actually becomes quite audible. It's really on a low volume. It's there in the background all day, every day, all night, 24/7. But when we choose to bring our awareness and our attention inwards a little to the breath, it can be quite grounding. And if the sound of the breath is bringing up any anxiety, or focusing on your breath is bringing up any anxiety, maybe just be aware of your hands and your body, or where your body is making contact with the supports beneath and behind you. But let's just tune in otherwise, if we can, to the sound of the breath moving into the body. And if you can breathe through the nostrils and all the way down towards the base of the lungs so that the belly is moving a little. Just noticing that sound. And then as you exhale, perhaps allowing the breath to leave a little sigh through the mouth. Or even just allowing the breath to move back out through the nostrils. And listening to the wave of the breath as it leaves. And I noticed that as I talked about the breath, or I'm talking about the sound of the breath as it comes and goes, the wind is picking up outside behind me, so you may or may not be able to hear that, but it's quite a sympathetic sound. It's quite harmonious to the sound of the breath. The breath is a little bit more controlled, a little bit less blustery. And the lovely thing about focusing on our breath is that the body will breathe all by itself. It doesn't need our intervention. The breath will come and the breath will go, and we'll carry on doing whatever we're doing or thinking about whatever we're thinking about. But we can influence the breath. And really we have most power to influence the breath when we tune into it, when we pay attention to it. So maybe as the moments pass, as the moments unfold little by little, you might choose to become a little bit more of a, rather than just being an observer of the breath, perhaps being a little bit more of a companion or a conductor. So as the breath moves into the body, perhaps you might like to invite it to be a little bit longer, a little bit slower, a little bit deeper, a little bit fuller. As the breath moves out again, just slowing it down ever so slightly. Or if you feel like you're already exhaling at a pace that's long and slow and comfortable, then perhaps just allowing the effort to be on listening. And effort is far too big a word, but allowing your awareness to be on the listening of the breath as it moves back out again. And as you continue to allow your awareness to rest lightly in this coming and going of breath, just maybe momentarily take a moment to take the awareness back a little to the mind, not too much, but just enough so that we can set an intention for our practice. We can set a sankalpa for our practice this morning, this evening, this afternoon, whenever you're tuning in. And think about the energies of the in-breath. It's nurturing, it's revitalizing, it's re-energizing. It nourishes, it feeds us, it gives us the strength that we need to move from moment to moment. What is it you'd like to call in for the next little while during your practice? What do you need to support you as you live your life right now in this current context that we find ourselves in? What do you need to call in? What nourishment do you need? What energies do you need to call in? Perhaps they're just about balance. Maybe you need to call in a bit of strength, a little bit of courage, patience, acceptance. Maybe calling in help in slowing down. Whatever it is that you might wish for yourself or need for yourself right now. Call it in with each inhalation and see it unfolding for you. So if you're calling in balance, emotional balance or mental balance, if you're calling in calm, if you're calling in courage, as you inhale, just allow the sense that that's already happening, that that's already within you, because all of these things are within you. Allow that to wash through you. And let's allow every inhalation from now on as we move through the practice and out into the world afterwards, back into your day, to symbolize and represent the calling in of the qualities that you would both like to invite in to support you, and that perhaps you may not even be aware that you need, but that might be helpful, so that the in-breath symbolizes calling in all of the things that serve your higher good. Calling in supports and well-being. Bring your awareness a little more fully to your exhalations. And again, the exhalations offer the body a chance to cleanse, to purify, to detox. They offer the body a chance to create space. So letting go of the breath that's moved around and nourished you and offered you all of the benefits that it has to offer. The exhalation creates space. It releases the breath that no longer has anything to serve you. That's not useful, it's not helpful anymore. No matter how helpful it was a few seconds ago, and it's done its job and it has nothing more to offer, if it's taking up space, it's getting in the way of your well-being. It's getting in the way of another nurturing breath coming in. So your exhalation is cleansing. And on a more physical level, the exhalation is as the body contracts to allow the breath to move out. The exhalation, it's a softening breath. So it's a breath where the muscles relax a little. So it's the breath that can help to release tension. It's the calming, the soothing, the nourishing breath. The inhalation is your energizing breath, the breath that's feeding you. And the exhalation is the calming, the more relaxing breath. And there might be specific things that you would like to name, that you'd like to release, maybe energetically, physically, emotionally, mentally, that we can invite the out-breath to support us with. You may just wish to set a general intention to allow every exhalation from now on to support just that cleansing, that releasing of anything that's no longer serving your higher good, anything that's no longer serving your best intention. And that might be attachment to things being a particular way, to how they were a few weeks ago, to how they were yesterday, to how we imagined they'd be in this moment. Because that's not really available to us. So allowing the breath, both the in-breath and the out-breath, to be a source of calling in and releasing. So take 2 or 3 nice, long, deep, slow, full inhalations and exhalations together. Perhaps we can explore the idea that they might be sign breaths. So the breath where we inhale fully through the nostrils and then sigh out softly, slowly through the mouth, to give breath to that release, to give breath to that cleansing. Or give voice to it, give sound to it. A nice, full, nourishing inhalation. Sighing, softening exhalation. And then maybe for the last round, as we inhale, we'll bring the body into it. So we'll invite the shoulders up towards the ears as we inhale. And then exhale, release that go and allow the drop of the shoulders to carry away any of that tension. And we'll revisit that a little bit later in our practice. For now, just with your gaze long and low, gently opening the eyes for a moment or two, and be mindful of the light that might be in the room. You might be in a darker room at this point. You might be in a bright room. So let the light in slowly. And just raise our gaze a little. Make sure that you're comfortable. So you don't need to make any little adjustments to any part of the body so that you can be nice and comfortable. And we're going to start by bringing our awareness to our hands. So at this point, I'm going to lift my hands away from my thighs. My elbows are alongside my body. If you're lying down, probably forgot to say at the beginning of the practice, you could be lying down, but I think you all know that that's something that you can do. We'll be making our way towards lying down anyway. So bringing the arms alongside the body. And what we're going to do as we move through this practice is, as much as possible, we're going to slow everything down. We're going to coordinate movement with breath. Don't get hung up on whether you're taking the same breath that I might be suggesting in any moment. Please, please, please listen to yourself rather than me. So if something doesn't feel comfortable, particularly when we're moving joints, If you have any arthritic conditions, if you have any injuries, any stiffness, any tightness, only move as far as feels good. Always stay on the right side of pain or injury. No pain is not what we want, or no pain, no gain is not going to work for you in this practice or any yoga practice. Pain equals pain, and you don't get any benefit from it. So mind yourself and move mindfully. So as we inhale, we're just going to open out the fingers, spread them nice and wide. Just bring as much space between the fingers as we can without causing too much tension into the hands. And when you're ready to exhale, just nice and slowly, softly curl the fingers in towards the palm. Inhaling, open, lengthen. And then exhaling nice and slowly, closing. And I really invite you to see if you can slow things down so that you're matching the length of time it takes the breath to the length of time it takes to move. Continuing with that flow, inhaling, opening, lengthening. Then a nice soft release back to center so that the movement inwards traces the beginning to the end of the exhalation. Opening, lengthening, stretching those fingers apart. And then closing gently. You can close your eyes at any time and keep the eyes open. But if you do, rather than looking at me, maybe just have the gaze a little bit lower so that the movement in the hands is coming into your peripheral vision. And then we're going to bring a little bit of movement into the knuckles in the hands. So this is like a piano kind of movement, or into the fingers. So we don't sync our body and our breath here. We don't sync the movement and the breath because that would be a little bit stressing. And then we're going to bring a nice kind of knuckle stretch into the joints and the fingers. And again, be really careful here around any tightness or any soreness. And then just come to rest and see. Take a moment to take a breath and just feel any movement, any energy flow that you feel in the hands as a result of that. And then we're going to bring the hands back up again so that, don't do that, keep your hands away from your face, so that we are going to pay attention now more to the wrists. So just bring the fingertips towards the ceiling. And we'll start, I have my palms facing inwards towards each other. As we exhale, we'll take our fingers, baby fingers, towards the floor, towards your knees or your hips. And then as you inhale, you can take the thumbs back towards the shoulder, nice and slowly again. And continue with the full range of movement that's available to you there. Release away on your inhales, lengthen away. And then back towards you. It doesn't matter where you're moving with an inhalation or exhalation. You're going in one direction for a breath and coming back in the other direction for a breath. Seeing all the time if we can just let our awareness focus on the movement and the breath. I'm trying to coordinate the two, or sync the two. I'm going to bring my fingertips now in towards the center of the body, in towards my navel. So I'm just releasing the wrists forwards. And on my next breath, whether it's your inhalation or your exhalation, you're going to just bring the fingertips back towards the outer edges of the mat, or back towards the outer edges of the knees. So we're really moving from the sides of the wrist to the front and the back of the wrist. Flow with that for a breath or two more. And again, if you're watching, it would be enough just to listen at this point rather than looking at what I'm doing. That's helpful for you to look. It's a little bit more hypnotic for you to be aware of your own body, the movement that's coming into your line of vision. Then you decide what's most nurturing for you. Close your eyes if that would work. And from here, we're going to make rotations with the wrists. So nice circles with the fingers. So half a circle for an inhalation, half a circle for an exhalation. And if we were coordinating the breath and the way the body moves in response to the breath, we might have our fingers moving downwards on the exhalations and then finding their way back towards the ceiling on the inhalations. But it really doesn't matter. It's half a circle for an in-breath, half a circle for an out-breath. And that usually slows us down enough to take us out of the pace of the day-to-day. And then we're going to come around and we're going to take this in the opposite direction. So just to complete the rotation. Always mindful of any tightness, any stiffness, any soreness that you might experience. You feel like that's balanced out, like you've gone 2 or 3 directions in this particular direction, or 2 or 3 rotations in this direction, you can stop with the fingertips towards the ceiling. And then rotate your palms towards the ceiling as you lengthen your arms out. So keeping this nice spaciousness across the shoulders, we won't collapse into it. Lengthen away on your inhalations. And when you're ready to exhale, nice and slowly take the fingers all the way back towards the shoulders. Lengthen away on the inhalations. See if you can trace the movement of the breath, so beginning to end of the inhalation, just beginning to end the movement. And I often say when I can see you that if I was looking around the room, I should be able to tell when you started to make a breath and when you've completed a breath. So that's the peak of my inhalation, when my arms are fully extended. The base of my exhalation is reached when the fingers come back to my shoulders. And the next time your fingers are on your shoulders, you can leave them there again. Have a nice opening, nice space between the shoulders. As we inhale, we'll lengthen the elbows up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, it's me cracking, back around behind you. Crackling generally represents movement of fluids rather than bones doing anything too concerning. So if you find a little bit of a crackling in your own body, so long as it's comfortable, it's just another release. And then we're inhaling, elbows up, so this time we're rotating the shoulders, moving through the body, just minding all the joints as we go. And because in yoga we like to always try to keep things balanced and counterbalanced, we're going to come back behind now on the inhalations, and then rotate the elbows forwards down towards the waist on your exhalations. So we're rolling here the shoulder joints, we're really mobilizing the ball and the socket joints, just releasing out any tension here that we might be holding in the shoulders. And then when you come back down, you can release, maybe take a nice opening here and release the hands to your thighs. We're just going to release a little bit more tension here. So as we inhale, a little bit like earlier, we're going to take the shoulders up towards the ears, and exhale, sigh out and soften, inhaling all the way up towards the earlobes. Exhale and release. Inhaling all the way up towards the earlobes. Exhale and release. And this time, inhale, take the shoulders down towards the waist. Exhale and soften. Take an inhalation down towards the waist. Exhale and release. And then down again in your inhalation. Exhale and release. Take a nice full in breath. And when you exhale, take the shoulder blades back towards each other, towards the center of the body. And release. Inhaling, and as you exhale, take the shoulders back. And release. So we're inviting the shoulder blades towards each other as though you're trying to tie a little bow between them. Inhale, shoulder blades back, exhaling and release. And then shoulders forwards as you exhale. And lengthen out again in your inhalation. Shoulders forwards on the exhalation, just bringing a little controlled rounding to your thoracic spine, and then exhaling. Release. And then one last time. Release forwards and back. We'll just take one little rotation in either direction just to finish that. So make sure you're nice and comfortable again. Make sure your back is supported. If you're up against the wall, take a moment to see, do you need to adjust anything or align anything? You can hear me sighing now as my own body starts to release out a little tension. And we're going to move our awareness now to the neck. So really careful with the head and the neck. You don't want to ever overextend. You don't want to go anywhere that doesn't feel good. So just allow yourself to go within the available range of movement that's there to be accessed, and that might change over time. So as you exhale, nice and slowly release your chin towards your chest to bring a little lengthening to the neck. And you're not trying to force your chin to your chest. You're not pushing it down. You're just allowing the weight of your head to bring the lengthening to the cervical spine there, a little release for the neck. And if that's not comfortable, if that's causing any dizziness, if you have any vertigo or anything, tinnitus or anything where the head doesn't like to drop too low, hopefully you'll have stopped before you got to a point of discomfort. Take it back up before you get there. So we're listening to our own bodies and what we need. And then from here, as you exhale, allow your right ear to move towards your right shoulder. Have your inhalation. And on your next exhalation, take your left hand out and throw there's a little kitten or a little puppy, or a child, or whatever might be, trying to scoot in and grab your attention, grab your awareness. Gently just ease that back. I'm not encouraging you to push your children away, but let's pretend it's something like a little playful puppy. And as you exhale again, you can release that. Roll back to center with the chin towards the center of the chest. And when you're ready to inhale again, really nice and slowly lift your gaze forwards. You don't have to open your eyes, you can if you wish. Find a breath. Let's take a sighing breath. Kind of, because that's what my body felt like doing, and you know that you can take those at any point that you like. But again, as the body starts to release, they can be nice. Release your chin towards your chest. And as you exhale, allow the left ear to move towards the left shoulder. And just feel that stretch into the right side of the neck. Take a nice full inhalation. And then this little puppy is very curious and he's very persistent at trying to come around the right side of the body now. So take that right arm out to the side, just a nice active hand as you gently scoot it away. The hand comes back behind you. And if you have any tension in the neck, you tend to, or if there's any tightness or any stiffness, you'll tend to feel it with this motion. You can release your hand back to your knee. Inhalation, just rolling back to center. Pause for your exhale. And when you inhale again in your own time, and just gently lift that gaze again. Your eyes can stay closed or light focus, whichever you prefer. And this time we're going to take the head to the side. So nice full inhalation. And as you exhale, start to nice and slowly release the chin, the nose, the head towards the right shoulder. Pause when you reach the end of your exhalation, wherever you are. Take a nice in-breath to refuel. And then from here, as you exhale, continue that journey, that movement over towards the shoulder. And you might take 2 or 3 breaths to get all the way to the shoulder. So again, pause on the inhalation. If you're already at the shoulder, you're pausing and then you're just saying, as you exhale, have you reached the outer edge of your range of motion, or maybe is there a little bit more space available? And you're not pushing into anything. We're not trying to force the head to go beyond its 180 degrees, and you might be much less likely to go that far. But we're not loud, so we're going to try and spin the head and our shoulders. Keep the shoulders nice and soft. And then as you exhale, start to slowly just ease back around towards the middle again. And if you run out of breath, pause. And then continue on your next exhalation. Noticing the difference maybe between the right and the left side here. Have a breath at center. And then a nice full inhalation. We'll start to glide towards the other side in the exhalation. And I always like to think of something like a swan in a lake, or something that just looks nice and serene, gliding along. That's a little bit like how we might be feeling at the moment, calm and yet a bit anxious under the surface. So take a nice full inhalation. Exhale, continue that journey, or if you've already reached your outer edge and you feel like that's as far as you want to go and the head doesn't want to turn any further, and we're certainly not going to push it, just pause. And then maybe one last time. So if you really slow down the journey, it will take you 2 or 3 breaths to get over to that shoulder. Now we'll make sure that we don't pull the shoulder forwards, that the shoulder stays nice and open. And then whenever you're ready on an exhalation, you can start that slow journey back to center. If your eyes are open, just notice everything that's coming into your line of sight. You don't need to open your eyes, but if you have them open, just notice whatever you're seeing. You're not holding your gaze on anything, you're just almost like, oh, there's that, there's that, there's that. No thoughts about it. Don't be planning what you need to clean later. Exhale, release back, chin towards chest. One more time. And then inhaling, lifting the gaze and looking forwards. So we're going to take a moment just to come out of whatever seated posture you're in. And you can stay upright for now. We will be coming to lie down soon, I promise. But lying down will be all the more juicy when we get there. So you can keep the height if you have something under your hips or under your bum here. But just lengthen the legs out in front of you. And I can see my feet there, so I'm hoping you can see them as well. But I just have my legs straight out, a little bit wider than hip distance apart. I'm going to bring my awareness down to my feet and my toes in particular. So give the toes a little wiggle. Just say hello to them and notice whatever you notice in terms of the toes rubbing against each other or against your socks. And as you inhale, lengthen away with the toes. And then exhale, nice and slowly bring the toes back towards your chest. Now you're keeping your knees soft as you're moving here, don't lock anything. Lengthen away on the inhalation, so the body expands and lengthens when we inhale, and then it contracts and shortens on the exhale as the toes come back to the shoulders. Lengthen away as you inhale, and back towards the shoulders on the exhale. And the next time we're lengthening away, and we'll allow the ankles to come into it as well. So you're tipping away the entire feet, so the fronts of your feet are moving forward, stretching the front of your ankles. And when you're ready to exhale, just sliding the heels away and the toes come back towards the chest. Tipping the toes away on your inhales, and then tipping the heels away, toes back towards the chest, lengthening on your exhalations. Tip those toes away, lengthen, and then nice and slowly back towards the chest. And then we will bring a little bit of a rotation into the ankles. And again, mind any tightness or any discomfort that you might experience or you might be carrying with you. So just bringing circles, making circles with the toes. We'll do half a circle for an inhalation here and half a circle for an exhalation. All the way around if you're breathing and syncing the breath and the movement of the body, moving down on the inhale, on the exhales and up in the inhales. Half a circle for an inhale, half a circle for an exhale is better than getting hung up on it and then getting a bit stressed because you think you might be moving in a different way to what I'm suggesting, because it's only ever a suggestion. Back around and then all the way up. And then we're going to come around in the opposite direction. So the reason that we move through this sequence is we hold a lot of tension, or we hold all of the tension from the mind and the body, and then the body has its own stuff going on as well. We tend to hold a lot in the joints, which is why they're so susceptible to injury, to arthritic conditions, to stiffness, tightness, discomfort. And this is a really great way to help to release some of that tension. So we just come to relax the feet and the ankles here a little bit. And if you're up in a height, just come down off it for a moment or two so that your bum is on the floor. Take a moment to release the flesh from the sit bones and maybe take the hands behind you so that you have a little bit of support. You need to start to get rid of some light pillows, and you can start to move yours away as well because we're not going to need them in a few minutes when we come to lie down. So take a moment to just clear your space a little bit. Maybe take the hands behind you. And as you go around, maybe imagine you're opening a jar in each hand so that you have a nice external rotation there on the shoulders. I'm going to bring my feet a little bit closer together. And then as I inhale, I'm going to bring my toes, tip my feet out to the outer edges of my mat so that I'm externally rotating my legs and my thighs here. And then as I exhale, I'm going to bring them back towards each other and in towards the center of the body. And if you have a little look, you'll be internally rotating your thighs here, internally rotating the legs. And we'll continue with that just for a few breaths. So nice and slowly, so no mad movement like that. Again, try to sync the length of time that you're moving for with the breath. And then back towards center and all the way in. So we have nadis, we call them nadis in yoga. They would be similar to meridian points in Chinese medicine, which are energy points, and they're all through the body, but particularly in the joints. And we believe that when we have blockages in these energy points, that it's one of the causes of illness and injury, but a huge source of tension in the body. So this is helping to release out all of this. What we're really doing here is we're giving your hips a little spring clean. So rotating the ball and socket joint in the hips here as well. And then we'll release that back to center. And this is where we're going to the nice bit now. We're coming to the lying down bit. So just bend the knees and come to lie on your mat. Come to lie with the knees bent. If you want anything under your head, maybe a blanket just to support the head, you know what you like from your class, whether you like support or not, and come to lying down. Lower yourself nice and slowly, and when you get down, I just want to make sure I can see myself. If I can see myself, hopefully you can see me. We're on coming so that we're nice and comfortable here. So make sure that you don't have a strong arch under your lower back, and want a nice neutral pelvis here. So for that, put my glasses off now because I don't need to see myself. For that, if you do find you have a strong arch, or you've come down and you feel like you're a little bit uncomfortable under the lower back, if you take your hip bones in towards your lower diaphragm and your navel in towards your spine, and then lift and gently release, and then lengthen the upper back there, you'll generally come down to a point where your pelvis is a little bit more grounded, is a little bit more neutral here. So we're going to come to do a little bit of work with the knees. So I'm going to take my left knee in towards my shoulder, in towards my belly. And before I do anything else, I'm just going to hold on to the now shin, wrapping my hands or interlacing my hands here around the shin, and invite the thigh as close to the belly as it's comfortable to come. So that helps to give a little release to the lower back and to the pelvis. And then I'm going to use my hands against my thigh or against my shin to create some resistance. So as I invite my hands against the shins to bring my thigh back towards my belly, without moving anything, I'm going to push against that. I'm going to try and push my shin back into my hands so that I have a strong engagement here in that thigh. And just, you can lift your right foot a little to make sure that you're not pressing down with the right side of the body, that you're nice and light on the right side, and then soften and release that. And just feel the arms relax, feel the shoulders relax, feel the thigh and the leg relax. And then you can take the hands round to the back of the thigh. So my fingers are interlaced here again. I'm going to do the same thing. As I exhale, I'm going to bring my hands against the back of my thigh, inviting the front of my thigh to my belly. And then as I inhale, I'm going to press against the hands. So try to press forwards or press away. And then when I exhale again, I'm just going to soften all of that and just feel the sort of cleansing effect, or the kind of release the effect that you get when you move out of that resistance, when you create that extra tension, and then let it go. And I'm going to release my hands away from my thighs altogether. And as I inhale, your hands can rest on the floor, they can rest on the belly, they can rest behind the thigh if you like. I think I have short arms, so they don't particularly want to do that, but if yours do, go for it. And as you inhale, we're going to bring the toes up towards the ceiling. So don't lock your knee, keep the knee nice and soft and nice, like micro bend in the knee. And then trace the line back towards the floor with your big toe. As you exhale, and again, match the length as much as you can, the length of the breath from start to finish to the time it takes to make the movement. So we're slowing everything down. Nice and slowly inhale all the way up. so that you don't see your toes for a minute or two, and then, oh, there's my leg, there's my foot, and then exhale all the way down. So bringing a little movement here into the knees. I'll be really kind with the knees. This is often an area where many of us do have a little soreness, and it's hard to recover from knee injuries. So inhale, lengthen. This time when the toes are pointing towards the ceiling, flex the foot, so bring the toes back towards the forehead. Press away with your heel so that you're bringing a lengthening here into your hamstring. If you wanted to make that any stronger, keep this knee soft, don't lock it. You can invite the thigh back a little closer to the belly. If you want to soften it out a little bit, if it's too strong, either point your toes a little or take the thigh slightly further away from the belly. So listen to your body and what kind of release, what kind of stretch you need there. And then we point the toes towards the ceiling, and as we exhale, nice and slowly we'll come back down towards the floor again. And then we'll bring that to the other side. So your right thigh will come towards your belly. We'll use the hands to create a little bit of resistance. So as we exhale, backs of the hands press into the back of the thigh to invite the front of the thigh towards the belly. And then as we inhale, we're going to push against that. So you're trying to push the front of the thigh away from the belly, the back of the thigh back into the hands. And then exhale and soften it out. See how that feels. I'm doing it slightly differently this time. I'm going to do it with the shin. So I'm taking, just reversing the order, and I'm going to take the hands around the shin, and as I exhale, I'm going to guide my hands to invite the shin a little closer to the thigh, and the thigh a little closer to the belly, and then as I inhale, I'm going to press against that. As firmly as I can, as firmly as feels okay, and only ever what might feel okay, and then soften and release that, and just see, as you release the hands, as you release the shoulders, as you release the thighs, what kind of release or you might access in the breath, in the belly. And then you can either take the hands behind or just release them to wherever is comfortable. And we're going to bring, as we inhale, that lengthening of the toes towards the ceiling. I kind of raced it at that time, so I need to slow down. And then as I exhale, toes are going to come towards the floor. Here's me cracking again. And all the way down towards the hips. I'm going to inhale and lengthen. So back to my little story about joint releasing. The nice thing about when we work on joint releasing, a lot of the time in yoga we're working with the muscles. If we're doing yin yoga, we're maybe working a little bit more with the connective tissue and the fascia, but in general we're working with the muscles. And when you start to include the joints as well, you get such a sense of release from it, because in between all of the joints are your muscles and your connective tissue and your fascia. Now you're not going to be stretching fascia unless you hold things for a while, but you do get a release for the muscles when you're working on the joints. We tend to get a full body release, and what's giving some particular attention to our joints. So this time when the toes are towards the ceiling, we're going to press through the heel, flex the foot, extend through the heel, and get that nice stretch to the back of the thigh and all the way down to the hamstring. And again, you decide, make sure you're not pressing down with your left foot, make sure that's nice and light. You decide whether you want a strong stretch for the hamstring, in which case you can gently use the hands to guide the thigh a little closer to the belly. You're bringing your hip bones and your femur back in towards your pelvis, or you can move it away or point the toes if it's too strong, and mind the knee as well. And then as we exhale, we're going to take the toes all the way down towards the floor and allow both of the feet to meet the floor. Let the knees fall in for a moment. Take a nice full inhalation. See, can you access a sigh? See, is there a sighing breath there available for you to release out into? Nice full inhalation and a sighing exhalation. And then we'll take our knees towards our chest, hands onto the knees. We're going to start making tiny little circles now with the knees, so that the arms are not really extending very far away from the body at all. Half a circle for an inhalation here again, half a circle for an exhalation. So really what you want is to feel that movement there across the pelvis from one side to the other. And then we'll move that in the opposite direction. Nice small circles here. Tiny little movements, just releasing out the pelvis and releasing out the sacrum, which is that joint where that's it, that rests in the pelvis where the spine sits into the pelvis. And then lengthen away. So stretch your arms out fully. And we're going to make nice wide circles now where we go as far to the side as we can. Now you don't want to roll over, lose your balance. Not really anywhere for you to go if you do, so it'll be okay. But let's see if we can keep the weight distributed between the shoulders and across the pelvis. So half a circle for an inhalation here. And half a circle for an exhalation. So we lengthen out those arms. 3 times in each direction is usually quite nice. And just turn my head away from the camera for a minute to get my neck. And the rest on the other side. And then coming back in the opposite direction again. You'll find that if you as you bring the thighs in towards the belly, if you're exhaling at that point, much more space, much more room than if you're inhaling as you're trying to bring the thighs back to the belly. And you'll have noticed with the bigger movements that you're feeling now nice gentle release, or almost like a massage up along the middle back, the vertebrae, up along the spine and all the way up to between the shoulders. And what you're doing here is getting a nice release out for your hips. So we'll drop the right foot to the floor. Your hand can rest on your belly or on the floor. And we're going to do this just with the left side only. So extend your arm fully away. And then as you exhale, guide that knee nice and gently out to the side of the body, towards the floor, as far as it wants to go, no further. And then back in towards the belly and around across the pelvis to complete the circle. We'll do it twice in each direction. So out, and then bending the elbow, the thigh, the knee comes back towards the belly, we move across, and we lengthen away. And then we're going to take that in the opposite direction, so the opposite rotation. And this really is releasing out the hips here. It's generally nice and soothing. It's great for your pelvis, it's great for the lower back. It's great for the hip joints and flexibility around the hips themselves, mobility and stability. Now you could do this without the hands, but I think, and I see people doing it without the hands, but you're really missing out if you do on the movement there for the shoulder as well. So if you want, although we're targeting the hips, you are getting a nice rotation there in the shoulder as well, which is also nice for the shoulders, the neck and the upper back. And then we take it up to the other side. So nice lengthening of the arm away. And notice everything that's happening. Notice your hand on your knee. Notice if the elbow meets the floor. Notice your arm crossing your body. Maybe your bicep against your chest. Notice whatever you're noticing. Don't notice pain and not do anything about it. Pull away from it. Keep on the right side of comfort. So you want to know you're moving. You want to feel like your body's releasing, but what you don't want and you don't need is any pain. And you're going to bring that foot to the floor. Take a nice full inhalation. See if you can find a sigh here again. If you did, relaxing your mouth, your lips, your tongue, your forehead. Take a nice full breath. Exhale anywhere that feels nice, anywhere that feels good. We're going to do a little movement now for the pelvis, the sacrum, and a little stretch out for the waist as well. So have your feet so that they're maybe just underneath your heels, so underneath your knees or a little further forward. Feet are hip distance apart and feet are kind of parallel so that they're not turning out and they're not turning in too much. But your feet will, to a certain extent, rest the way they do depending on the natural rotation of your hips. So don't do anything that's not comfortable. So don't make them parallel if that's going to be really strong for you and uncomfortable in any way around the hips, and just feel what's good. Again, we want that nice neutral pelvis. So if you feel like you're arching, you want to bring your diaphragm towards the floor. You want to bring your hip bones towards your lower diaphragm. Lift the pelvis. Lift and lengthen your thoracic spine, and then release back down again. So we're going to do something that's called a pendulum twist here, and you'll know this from your class. And this is where we're going to take, it's like a pendulum, that's coming to the end of its swing, where the movements are actually quite small, quite, slow and controlled. So we're not doing a twist where we're trying to bring the knees out all the way to the floor. We might do later, but we're not doing that right now. We're doing a twist that's specifically to release tension and to release out around your sacrum, the sacroiliac joint. So what you want is both of your hips, both sides of your pelvis, and both of your shoulder blades to be on the floor at all times. So it's really a movement that's only about an inch or two either side. And don't be too generous with your measurements. So take a nice full inhalation, and as we exhale, we're going to allow the knees to glide out an inch or two to the left side. If your right bum cheek starts to lift off the floor, you've gone a little bit further than you need to, so just take that back in to level the pelvis. And when you inhale, you're going to nice and slowly come back to center and start to move it out to the other side. So inhale back to center. So we come in on the inhales, we move out on the exhales, nice and slowly. And again, seeking to match the beginning to the end of the exhalation to the beginning to the end of the breath. So that if I was looking around, I might wonder where you're asleep when you're moving at all. Take it out here to the other side. Now I know the light is probably a little bit funny. That light in the background is not ideal, so I'll probably find a different place to be next time. But hopefully you can see enough and the guidance is clear enough anyway. Mostly you're in dark rooms unless you come to morning class when we do this, so hopefully you're getting all you need. And then we're going to come across on the other side. And you feel this just a tiny little movement either side of the middle of the pelvis here. This is really nurturing for the sacrum. And then little by little we're going to extend the range as we go out to the side. You're going to go a little bit further and then back to center on your inhalations and out nice and slowly on the exhalation. But see, can you still manage to coordinate the length of the movement with the length of the breath so that it's still a flowing movement, it's still coordinated. And this might be as far as you want to go. You mightn't have even come this far. You might have wanted to stay at that tiny little pendulum kind of shift. But let's just keep going to either side and just roll across a little bit more, if you like, and then back to center. So just do that, continue that yourself. I just want to check that the video is actually still recording here. Yes, it is. So you can extend that range of movement as much as you like, but we want you to think that in the next 2 or 3 movements, you're going to come towards wherever you want to be for that outer edge for a hold for a couple of breaths. And then when you feel like you've gone as far as you want to go with the movement, so you might be rolling across the feet completely now, you're going to allow just the knees to fall out. Now check in straight away, and you probably already know if you need, I would say, a block if we were in class, but it might be one of your blankets and one of your pillows that you need here. And I should probably have told you to have it handy, so that's my bad. But if you find that when you take the knees out to the side, there's any pinching or any stretching for your lower back, for your hips, for your pelvis, that's uncomfortable, just prop the lower thigh, prop the thigh that's closest to the floor with something, with a blanket or a block there. And then maybe take the arms a little wider. So rotate the palms towards the ceiling initially. So we have a nice opening across the chest. And then you can release the elbows and the forearms, hands back to the floor. And let's see if it would be comfortable as you exhale to start to bring your head back towards center and maybe glide it over towards the opposite shoulder. And as you go towards the opposite shoulder, so your knees are to the left, you're moving towards the right shoulder, release the right shoulder away from your chin to create space. And then just flow into that. Soften your lips, relax your jaw. Soften your mouth, your lips, your tongue. Relax the forehead. And have 2 or 3 more breaths here. You may wish for them to be sighing breaths. Your body may wish for them to be sighing breaths at this point. Take a nice full inhalation. And a sighing. exhalation. Nice slow inhalation. And a sign of breath. And then maybe one more of these. And then as we inhale, we're going to allow our head nice and slowly roll back to center. You can lift it if it's comfortable. Just align your shoulders nice and slowly. Take your knees back to center. Take a moment and just see if you feel a little bit offline. Sometimes the pelvis doesn't quite land where it started and we can feel a little bit offline. So make sure that you're comfortable there along the spine. And rather than just falling out to the outer edge on the other side, we're going to glide away, drift our way little by little again, just so that the body doesn't get any unpleasant shocks, and we're continuing to honor whatever our experience is, just nice and slowly flying back to center here and back out to the other side. And little by little extending the distance that you go, if that's what you want to do. You might want to stay closer to center. So after maybe 3 or 4 flows, whatever feels comfortable for this side of the body, you can be fewer or more depending on how you're feeling. You allow that release out to the outer side, so you can come onto the outer sides of the outside foot and the inner side of the right leg. And then just check, do you need any support on this side? Do you need any support there for the hips, for the thighs, underneath the knees, so that there's not so much strain on your groin, there's not so much strain on the pelvis or the lower back, the hip, wherever you might feel it. And I'm already in this position with my head, but we'll check to see if the head might like to flow towards the opposite side to the knees, so that you're getting release at either end of the spine. And if it does, as you're flowing in that direction, release the shoulder away from the chin as you go, so that there's space there created. You're bunched up here, it's not very nice for the neck or the head. And try and see, does the body want to sigh for you here? Do you want to access a few sighing breaths here? You might even want to yawn. I'm saying that because I think I want to yawn, but you listen to your body and don't yawn just because I said yawn. Although they are very contagious and they're very cleansing and releasing. So if you can find a yawn, why not? They're free. And have a couple of breaths here. So these are anything that you can soften, anything that you might be holding on to tightness in, any tension, anything that you can release. And then maybe after another breath or so and an inhalation, you'll start that journey back towards center. Check with the alignment again. Do you feel like you need to lift anything? You're a little bit off center. You can take your knees towards your thighs and then wrap the hands and hold on to the wrists, hold on to the elbows. If you've got very long arms, hold on to the forearms, whatever's good, whatever feels nice, and have a little roll from side to side here across the body. Just start to notice, how is your body feeling? You really moved through all of your joints now, released quite a lot of tension, so muscles have released as well, so you might be starting to feel a little bit lighter, a little bit sleepy maybe. We're going to roll over onto our left side. Make a pillow for yourself with your elbow as you go, and come into a fetal position here for a breath or two. And just get that head so it's nice and comfortable. And I usually encourage the arm maybe to rest on the thigh, slightly back behind you rather than forward, so that we keep a nice opening here across the front of the body. Relaxing, softening, and just being comfortable here. I can only see half my head on the camera, so just in case that's all you can see too. Or maybe it's better if you can only see half my head. You really don't need to be looking at me at all. So have one more breath here. And then we're going to use our right hand, taking it to the floor, and use that to lengthen us up. And we're going to find our way to all fours. And just take a tabletop position. So we're coming towards the end of the sequence now. It's just a little bit of lingering out here. So clear your space. Make sure you have nice space there. And we're going to spread the fingers, clawing with the fingertips. Find a nice neutral tabletop where your Feet are about hip width apart, knees are about hip width apart, directly beneath the hips. Fingers are, or the wrists are underneath the shoulders. Now, if you have sore wrists, it can help to come slightly further forwards, but make sure they're not back behind you. You don't want to be putting pressure on the wrists by having the wrists behind the shoulders. The more you climb with the fingertips here, the more that you're going to take away pressure as well. We're down at the tops of the feet. It's a little easier on the knees. Hug in the outer hips, the outer edges of your hips towards each other, just to firm up the thighs a little bit and bring a little engagement into the glutes. And we're going to cat-cow for a couple of rounds. So as you exhale, tailbone towards the heels and arch up through the spine. Now, if you're doing this in a chair at this point, I'll show you in a minute what you could be doing. Release your tailbone to the ceiling on your inhalations, belly towards the floor, and then you're just looking forwards towards the wall behind you. And don't hyperextend your lower back here, then flow with that. So exhaling into your cat. So in your chair, if your feet are up like this on the floor, you'll be releasing forwards with the shoulders, so that the chest is coming towards the space between the legs, and then you just open up on the inhalations, lengthen forwards, and then opening up, and then just repeating that a few more times in each direction. And then we're going to come back to center. We're just going to come to a seated position. We'll take the legs out in front of us. So again, if you're on the chair, you don't necessarily need to move the legs. If they're elevated, it might be better to take them to the floor, just so that you have a little bit more space to move around the hips. But whatever, again, take a moment to see what's comfortable. And we're going to just take a little lateral stretch here for the side of the body. So take the left hand to the floor, right hand to the waist initially, and then open up the chest there. And then as we inhale, we'll take the fingertips towards the ceiling, and exhale, lengthen across the body there. So you're bringing a nice stretch down into this side of the waist. Inhale back to center, and then exhale across to the other side. And didn't take the hand to the waist that time, but generally once one side of the body does it, the other side follows. So it's just the difference between stretching across with a nice open chest and a nice open spine rather than collapsing into it. And then inhaling back to center, hands slightly back behind us. Exhale across. Inhale back to center. And exhale across the ceiling, starting to access a bit of a stretch here now as you release out into the side body. And then one final time in each direction. It's generally really nice little flowy sort of sequence there as well. And then you can take your hands behind your thighs and lengthen up here. Bring that openness across again. Avoid puffing out the rib cage, so the diaphragm is moving towards the floor and any lift is in the sternum. And we're going to take the right hand to the left knee. We'll take the left hand up towards the ceiling, and we'll take it round behind us and just follow that round with our gaze. Inhale back to center, and then exhale, left hand to right knee, right hand towards the ceiling, and take that round behind us as we stretch around. So just a little side stretch here. We've already had a twist and a stretch into the side body. Inhale back to center, and this time maybe we don't need to lift the arm, we can just move around as far as you like to go. Inhale back to center, exhaling around, inhale back to center, and then hold on to the backs of the thighs, lift and lengthen. And as you exhale, take your belly to your thighs. And if you're on the chair, you can be doing the same thing. So your knees are bent, belly towards the thighs, and then you can slowly come down. Release the arms forward or release the arms towards the legs, release your chin towards your chest. So if you're doing this on a chair, it will be much easier if the feet are on the floor than if the legs are extended in front of you. Take a nice full inhalation. A sigh and exhalation. Release out the neck there. Full inhalation. Sigh and exhalation. Nice full inhale. And a sigh and exhalation. And then we'll just lengthen up as we inhale. Take the hands behind us, so the fingers are under the shoulders. Now just take the shoulder blades back and then lift from the sternum. So again, don't stick out your rib cage. So the lift here is just the sternum, just a little back bend to counterbalance that. You might like to stretch the legs out in front of you, tip the toes away, and then you're going to just bring your legs so that they're back into easy cross-legged or out in front of you. Take a nice full inhalation, sighing exhalation, and then take a moment to have any kind of breath that you want to have. So your body has had a good stretch in every direction. You've lengthened, you've toned, we've expanded, and we've contracted, and just pretty much nothing that hasn't moved to some degree, stretched to some degree. And that includes, so we started with the toes and we went up to the ankles and then to the knees, we had the hips, your thighs and your hamstrings had a little bit of maneuvering, your fingers, your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, had various opportunities for movement. The muscles in between worked. We stretched into the side body, we looked after the sacrum and the lower back, the neck had movement. So apart from rolling the eyes, and we're doing enough of that on a daily basis at the moment, so that's probably taken care of, had a pretty good release. So what I'd like you to do now is just take a moment or two and stretch in any way that feels good to you. Yawn if that's what you want to do. What I will invite you in towards, because I should have or could have or meant it, is maybe just to release out before we come to our backs into a child's pose. So from our tabletop, if you want to make your way back there, you would bring the toes together, bring the knees wide. And the equivalent for this really is bringing your belly back to your thighs if you're on the chair. And then start to press your hands away so that you bring your bum back towards your heels as far as that wants to go. Now, for some of you, you'll be much higher. Some of you, your thighs will be quite happy to release and your bum will be quite happy to come back towards your heels. And then walk your hands a little bit further away. So don't collapse into your child's pose even if you know what you're doing, because I want to guide you into it in a particular way. Invite the shoulders back so that they're not bunched up towards the ears. Just glide the shoulder blades back towards the diaphragm. And then I want you to imagine that you're a leaf falling from a tree, or a feather falling, or some good fortune falling from the heavens. And glide your way from side to side, release from shoulder to shoulder, so that eventually you'll come so that your elbows reach the floor. And you'll be much lower down generally than you normally would come if you just plop into your child's pose. And also you'll come down gradually in a way that mobilises the shoulder joints rather than just jarring into anything. You can release your head to the floor, forward to the floor. And if you find that the head doesn't want to come to the floor, it used to take me a long time to get my head to the floor. And if I started doing yoga, I had a very tight neck. It's a safe position just to let the neck to hang. Or you can stack your elbows. Pop one hand on top of the other, and then release your forward to your hands. Or you might also know this with having one fist on top of the other. Now, if that's not comfortable for you, just roll over onto your back, or if you're in the chair, the option is to bring your thighs to your belly rather than your belly to the thighs, and come back to this. Come back to something like this and just have a little roll from side to side. But have a few breaths there. Soften the shoulders. Soften, if you're in the child's pose, soften the hips. And just allow a little release come into the body. When you've had 2 or 3 breaths there, you're going to think about coming back to the floor for your Shavasana for the last 10 minutes or so. Now I'm just coming up to say to you that depending on what you've had with you, and I did suggest at the beginning a few blankets or a few pillows, again, don't rub your nose, it's not part of the practice, it's not recommended in yoga or in COVID-19 conditions. You might maybe have a pillow. I have a couple of long sort of Ikea cushions here under the knees, or have a pillow under your knees, or a few blankets under your knees. Cover yourself with a blanket and get yourself nice and cozy. If you like support for your head, if you like a blanket, I wouldn't put a pillow because I think it might be a little bit high and take your neck a little out of alignment. If you really want to have a pillow at your boss, and I'm not there to see otherwise, but maybe a blanket under your head might be something that maybe is a little bit more useful. Or you might want to have that sort of rounding part of your neck supported. If it's not comfortable to lie like this and you still have a little bit more height under the knees if you don't like to have the back extended, or you can just bend your knees and let the knees fall in. But you want to just come to a nice, comfortable resting position for your last few minutes. If you wanted to put something over your eyes, so I'm coming back up, but it's just to guide you into your last few minutes of meditation. If you wanted to cover your eyes, it'd be time to turn out the lights if the lights are on. So if you want to take a minute or two, you can pause me at any time. If you want to take a minute or two to get yourself comfortable, and then get yourself comfortable. Get yourself to a point where you're nice and easy, you're nice and relaxed, you're ready for that last few magical moments of relaxation with our very favourite Jack Harrison and Sarvation. So people ask me all the time about this. So it's Sarbesham. It's Jack Harrison. So if you're looking for it, it's on Spotify or YouTube. And I have a playlist. These playlists are on Spotify. My username is Yvonne_Lucas. So if you want to go and it's the Yvonne Yoga Relax music that is on in the background during the class. So if you want to go and like that, you'll be able to use that at home if you want to access any of those songs. So for now, it's time to rest. Check that you're comfortable. Check that you're feeling easy, that you're feeling effortless, that you're feeling nice and relaxed. And just let go. Let go of any holding on that you might need to do. Any effort has been made. Anything that you need to do has been done. And now is your time to soften, to be easy, to let go. Relax your jaw. Soften your mouth, your lips, your tongue. Relaxing the forehead and the space between the eyebrows. So allowing the outer edges of the eyebrows to melt towards your temples. Allowing the temples to melt towards the tips of your ears. Relaxing your scalp, your neck, your shoulders, the chest, the back. Relaxing your arms, your elbows, your forearms, wrists and hands, and all of your fingers. Relaxing your belly above and below the abdomen, your hips, your pelvis, your glutes. Softening the front and backs of the thighs. Relaxing your calves, your shins, your ankles, your heels, your feet, all of your toes. Letting the legs be heavy, letting them roll out in any way that's comfortable. And just inviting the full weight of your body to release to your mat, to the floor. Allow yourself to just fully let go. Let your breath be nice and long, deep, slow and full. And just reminding you that every inhalation symbolizes and represents the calling in of your highest good, of your best intentions, of all that you need at this time to serve your well-being. And your exhalations, and all of the release of the practice, all of that joint releasing, the Pawmonatasana series, that releasing of tension in the muscles. And just the slowing down, just the effect on the nervous system, on the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response of slowing down. All serves to support you and to release blockages and tensions that are just make us a little bit heavier, just make life a little bit harder, make it a little bit less comfortable to be in our bodies in a way that's easy and free. Let your breath deepen, be long, slow, full, nurturing. May you be well and happy. May you ride the waves of your lives. And may you find peace, ease and balance at this time. And offering the same positive, good intentions, well-being, loving kindness and meditation to all of your family, to your friends, to each of you watching this at any time. And not forgetting the community that we share together as a yoga community, as a class. So normally we're in a room together, and I'd be inviting you to send loving kindness, to send compassion and support, and to receive it from those around you in the space. So we all know who we share that space with. You know the names, you recognize the faces. And let's just keep that energy going between us until we can be in a room together again. Let's keep that energetic connection. And then extend that out to our community outside of our shared yoga space, outside of our villages, outside of our towns, all the way out across the world, across the globe. Particularly at this time of unique shared experience. I don't think we've ever been in quite such a phase of everybody, to some extent, sharing the same challenges, the same fears, and the same hopes. May we each be well and happy. May we each find ease, balance, and peace. And maybe find whatever it is, the courage, the acceptance, the strength, the balance, the flexibility. To do what we need to do, and to not do what we need to do, which is much of what we're being asked to do at the moment for the next little while. To let go of our need for things to be a particular way, for our routines to remain the same. For now, just allow ourselves to be a little quieter, a little more contained, and a bit more mindful and caring for ourselves and others until such time when we can start to move with more freedom and ease again. But let's try and find that freedom and ease and movement and balance and connection internally for now, until we can find it a little bit more externally again in the future. So let your breaths be long, deep, slow and full. For the last few moments of our practice, let go of any holding through softening. Let your breaths fill you with warmth, energy and nourishment. Let yourself just be. And in that being, let yourself be effortless and free. Let your breath become a little longer, deeper, slower, and fuller. I'm starting to bring it low. And there's no hurry because you can stay here as long as you like. You're always asking me if you could stay and sleep and not have to move. And guess what? You're at home, so maybe you can. So find the tiniest, most nurturing. If you need to move, and maybe you're on your bed, maybe you're in your bed, or you're warm enough to stay where you are for a little longer. But when you do choose to start to awaken and invite yourself back, do so with little mini micro movements, maybe little mini joint releasing exercises. Allow trickles of movement to flow through the body, to start to invite energy to flow again, to start to bring a little awakening. And things like bringing your knees to your chest and having a little rock from side to side, or full body stretch, rolling over onto your right or left side and resting there for a little while, maybe fetal position, just make a cradle for yourself with your neck. Any of these things can be nice ways to come in, but this isn't your first time coming out of Shavasana. This isn't your first practice. So you know, hopefully you're learning to know what it is that you like and what you need in this moment. Give yourself as much time as you like. And when you do come back, have another stretch and another moment of quiet, of ease. Maybe a sawing breath or two. And then, only when you're ready, just start to move yourself back into your world. I really recommend that you have a glass or two of water after your practice, because you'll have released lots of toxins potentially from trapped energy in the body, and particularly around the joints. Or herbal tea can be really nice. Maybe a shower later before bed. And take all of these little moments as moments of nourishment. Not something that you have to do so that you feel better after your practice or you'll feel good tomorrow. Moments of nourishment. So thank you for joining me. I hope that the experience has been beneficial enough, and we can't offer you a room for the next little while. We can't offer you an escape valve or a different room to come into, or a studio space, but hopefully we can continue to meet and we can continue to practice together. And as time goes on, maybe some of the practices might be real time, where you have the opportunity to actually tune in and we can interact a little bit more. And please give me your feedback in terms of just the technical aspects of this, and sound and light and volume and that sort of thing, so I can try to make things a little bit more comfortable for you as the weeks go on. So for now, take care, be safe, be well, keep your distance, wash your hands, and breathe. Namaste. Thank you.